All right, let's dive into a really fascinating political paradox from modern India. It's a story about how one political giant, through a series of what seemed like smart choices, might have accidentally built up its own greatest rival. It's a chain of events that would end up reshaping the entire nation.
And that quote, that really gets to the heart of what we're digging into here. This isn't just about the big headlines. It's about the quieter, behind-the-scenes decisions that can kickstart a whole new political reality. And the ripple effects, well, they were bigger than anyone could have possibly imagined at the time.
So this is the central puzzle we're trying to solve. And it really does sound like a contradiction, doesn't it? I mean, how could a political party founded on secular ideals somehow end up creating the perfect environment for its total ideological opposite to grow and thrive? Let's break it down.
To really get this, we've got to rewind, like all the way back to the beginning. Right after India's independence, where two completely different visions for the country were already starting to form. You have to understand, for the first few decades, the Congress Party wasn't just a political party. It was pretty much the political institution. And its whole identity was built on this core principle of secularism, the idea that the state would stay neutral on religion and that India would be a home for people of all faiths. So bam, right from the get-go, you've got this massive ideological clash. On one side, you have the Congress vision, a state that's separate from religion, where all communities are treated as equals. And on the other side, you've got this emerging Hindutva ideology, arguing that no, India's very identity is tied to its Hindu culture. Look, this wasn't just a disagreement over policy details. We're talking about two totally different blueprints for what the nation should even be. So you've got these two opposing forces. How on earth did they end up so entangled? Well, it turns out a series of what seemed like small, practical decisions started to blur those really sharp ideological lines, and often in ways nobody expected. Yeah, this wasn't some big, sudden event. It was a slow burn, something that happened over decades. You can really trace it through three main phases. First, you have these early policy compromises. Then came some big shifts in how they approached elections, and finally, some very strategic political alliances. Each one on its own probably seemed like a smart, pragmatic move. But boy, when you add them all up, the consequences were massive. I mean, think about it. In those early years, trying to govern a country as incredibly diverse as India, it was this constant high-wire balancing act. To hold its huge coalition of voters together, Congress often had to make concessions on really sensitive socio-religious issues. The idea was to keep everyone happy, to accommodate different groups, but every one of those compromises kind of chipped away at that strict idea of state neutrality.
Then things started to get more competitive, right? And when the political field gets crowded, what happens? Strategies change. The focus started to shift away from one big unifying message and towards making very specific appeals to different communities to lock down votes. This led to tactical, short-term alliances that, while they might have won an election, sometimes clashed with the party's own core secular values. Okay, so what happens when you take all these little compromises, all these tactical shifts, and you stack them up over decades? What's the final result? Well, the outcome was a huge ideological shift that pretty much nobody saw coming.
And you can see exactly how it unfolded step by step. It always starts with just one small, short-term political calculation. But that decision gives a little bit of oxygen, a little bit of mainstream legitimacy to a rival idea. Then, over time, that slowly starts to change the entire national conversation. And in that new political climate, the opposition suddenly finds a whole lot of fertile ground to grow. And this, right here, is the absolute core of the issue. Every tactical move, every compromise made to win an election in the short term ended up strengthening the very Hindutva ideology that Congress was founded to oppose. It's a classic case of winning a few battles, but slowly and unintentionally losing the larger war of ideas. And the long-term fallout from this dynamic? Wow. It wasn't just about one party getting weaker. It fundamentally remade the entire political map of India, really setting the stage for the reality we see today.
This table just lays it out so clearly. Look at secularism. What was once a basic consensus suddenly became a major political battleground. Then you have party politics. The country went from being dominated by a single party to being this super competitive, highly polarized arena. And even governance itself. More and more, national debates started being argued through a socio-religious lens. The basic rules of the game had completely changed. So when you put it all together, what you get is something much bigger than just the rise and fall of political parties. We're talking about how the entire language, the very framework of Indian politics, was permanently changed. The choices made decades ago built the stage that everyone is acting on today. Which leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? This whole story is just such a powerful lesson in unintended consequences. It makes you wonder, right? How many of the pragmatic, smart political moves being made today, in any country, are accidentally setting the stage for the ideological battles of tomorrow? It's definitely something worth thinking about.